ask the question, what if we set intentions with everything we do? I am your co-host, Andrew.
And I'm your co-host, Michelle. And we're glad you're here with us today.
So today, Mom, I have a question for you about something you've mentioned to me before, possibly even on this podcast, I'm not sure. But it's about, well, I'll just set my intention right away, because the intention is for me to learn more about this thing, which is how to sort of become more aware of your emotional state by being aware of your body. Mm-hmm. Which is something that you have talked about before. So do you have like a spiel for this technique? Is there a name for it? I don't even know if there's a name for it.
Oh man, you're gonna put me on the spot. There probably is, okay. And I probably don't know it.
That's
or
okay.
It's not coming in right now,
you don't
right?
Have to, yeah.
And I feel like this is a thing where if I was like, in a classroom teaching and talking about it, I would probably have my friend Kat, who's a doctorate level psychologist, in there with me to really drop into more of the scientific and knowing what it's called kind of stuff. I think there's actually a lot of different things about it, right? Like, I mean, whether it be the book The Body Keeps Score, or I think somatic yoga is very much connected with this, and I might be wrong about that because I've never taken somatic yoga or anything like that. But the idea of, I think, some people are way more logical with their emotions versus like actually paying attention to or feeling them viscerally in your body. And I think that our body naturally will just respond. It's like it tells you. Your body gives you clues, whether you choose to go into your body and feel them or not. And if you start really paying attention to that, you can really learn. Like for me, anger was my go-to emotion. And like, I can feel in my body, in my gut, in my throat, and even in like my shoulders, there's like a tension that happens. And I say my throat because often when I'm angry, I just want to do like a primal scream and just do that like kind of, like that kind of, and that might be a frustration thing, right? Depends on how deep it goes and where we're at. But you can really listen to your body, and emotions is definitely connected to it. Often I start with like, what are your yeses and what are your nos? Because your body tells you that.
What do you mean yeses and nos?
So like if I'm choosing to do something, but everything in my body is telling me no, like meaning it's not aligned with like my authentic self, with who I am, my body closes off. Like I get tight, like I can feel like tension. It's maybe a little bit harder to breathe. I tend to like grip my hands. I just have more like physical tension in my body. Whereas if I think about something that is aligned and brings me joy, like you can even hear it in my voice, right? Like I tend to like sit up bigger. I tend to open my shoulders more. I feel more spacious and light in my body, and I don't feel so like energetically heavy. But I never was connected to that before. My body was like a brick. I mean, it was just like everything was rock solid. There was only tension. There was not a lot of space, and my body hurt a lot. And it was through my Thai massage training where I realized, I'm just not listening. And I actually do have like my body, my physical body, my energetic body, but my physical body, if we want to get tangible, tells me, like you get those gut feelings, but it's like actual tension in your gut versus like just like an intuitive hit. Like your body is literally resisting the thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so this is something I've definitely been like trying more of lately since hearing it from you, and I have been really impressed by like how much it works, like how helpful it's been.
Yeah.
Because like I think this is a perfect example of like the intersection, like or a great like intersection between our like world, like perspectives on the world, because it is at the same time practical, but also like helps raise your awareness of yourself and your emotional state. And it's like a very like, I don't know, I think I'm generally a pretty down to earth person, but like And this is something very clear that I can like do and think about in the moment and do. So for example, like this is definitely something I've experienced. So like since I became aware of this, like I've noticed like when I am having a conversation with friends, sometimes I am like sitting sort of back in my chair and I'm relaxed and like my shoulders are sort of more slumped and I'm like, I'm having a good conversation with those friends and I feel good and whatever. And other times, I am sort of fidgeting and sort of sitting up and I can feel in my back, there's a spot in my back where I can feel...
I love that you've pinpointed it. That makes me so happy.
There's a spot in my back where I can feel sort of like it gets sore if I have been stressed for a while. Or if I've been sort of on stage for a while, whether or not I'm like the center of attention or not, if I just like feel like people are watching me and I'm very aware of that, even if I'm not aware that I'm aware of that, I can feel that after the fact. I'm like, I go to bed and I feel like, oh, my back is sore. I'm like, oh, I've been stressed today or something.
Yeah.
Another point is if it's more of like, and I don't know how much these all sort of connect. I don't know how accurate my assessments of these are, but this is how it seems to me, and it's been helpful so far. But like, if I have more of like a longer term like stress of just like a bunch of stuff to do, I feel that like right in my like sternum, like right below my solar plexus, like that area. So like, these are very
above your solar plexus.
Solar
plexus is a couple inches above your navel.
Oh,
heart
really?
Chakra is like heart. So you're between your heart and your solar plexus.
Was like the thing between your ribs.
Oh, that's your sternum.
Oh, your sternum. Okay, then under my sternum. That has been super helpful for me to like just be aware of like how I'm feeling. And like for me, it mostly has been showing up in like anxiety. Like I can tell where from my body. I can tell if I'm anxious by paying attention to my body. Other emotions, it's hard for me to get as clearly from my body. Maybe that's just because I'm new at actually being aware of my own body. But you just sort of lit up for a second.
I did light up because I'm like, do you want to take it to another layer or just give you another thing to explore?
Sure.
Because sometimes it just helps have an outside observer explore something. So I think you said it was like in your sternum-ish area where you feel the anxiety, right? Is that what you said? Yeah.
Yeah, that
okay.
And the back.
Right. But so what I'm wondering is, and what I'm suspecting happens, and what is common for a lot of people, I mean, it's almost like a natural reflex for this is how it feels to me. But that's like diaphragm area, your breath. Mm-hmm. So where are you breathing when you have anxiety? Is it forced? Is it a full diaphragmatic breath? Or are you breathing like up into your chest and you're not taking a full like belly breath all the way from your pelvic bowl all the way up into like right from the bottom up kind of a breath versus only up? Mm. And so like the fact that you feel the tension there, I'm like, oh, dude, just stop and pause when you feel that and pay attention to your breath and do that like we've talked about one-to-one breathing, right? Where you breathe your inhales and your exhales at the same length, and then just really be mindful about where it's going and bring it as deep into your belly as you can and like allow that full breath and a slow breath. Because anxiety, we tend to like, get really shallow and it gets more, everything's tense, so you're not taking as full of a breath and it's not as relaxed. And I don't know, you just said sternum area and anxiety and I was like, oh, it's a breath thing. It might be a breath thing. I'm not saying it is a breath thing. I'm just saying it could be, and that would be something that you could, like another layer of a tool that could help you understand what might be happening in your body or why what's happening in your body might be. Or that, like, not to say that will solve the stress and anxiety problem, but just to say that might be another layer as to why it shows up there so strongly for you. And that maybe that's a hint, like our bodies, give us a hint of that's a tool that we could use to solve that or to help us support us in that. Mm-hmm. Or even like the back, right? Is it between your shoulder blades?
A bit lower than that, but yeah. Like it's right next to the spine. It's usually on the right side.
But I mean, it's Oh, so it's on the right side too. I'm just wondering if it's like, if it's sort of between your shoulder blades, it's like if you kind of hunch in like this, right? Like, well, what if you do a heart opener? So if you, like when you go home and your back is sore, if you just fold a towel a little bit and lay over the towel so that your shoulders open up because they've been like curled in all day. It's like, what have you been doing to create the tension? Can you find a way to get the opposite position in your body for just a little bit to open up? I'm not saying this is good, right, or wrong. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not saying what's good or bad for your body. I'm just saying to explore in your body and some concepts to think about as you explore your body.
Well, yeah, and that's something that brings up something that I really like about this technique, because a lot of, like, I think most people understand that there is a connection between the brain and the body. Like, how you're doing emotionally has some level of connection with how you are doing physically. That is often the case. I think most people sort of understand that. But I know, at least for me, like, for a long time, like, that it's always felt like this very sort of esoteric, like, oh, there's some weird things in your brain that just make your body, like, worse when you're feeling worse. And, you know, maybe that's true. Maybe that's true to some extent. But what I really like about this technique is like you were saying, like, it's you can trace exactly how it's happening a lot of the time. Like, it's in your posture, in your pose, in, like, here's another example. Especially when I meet new people, until I become really comfortable with them, I notice that if I spend enough time with them, I like my stomach feels really bad. Like I almost feel like bloated, and like,
if you spend more time with them,
if I spend enough time with them, like, at once, like when I'm just getting to know
got
them.
it. Yep.
So, like, if I spend 6 hours with a group of people who I have met within the past year or so or something, I usually will come home not feeling very good, and it's very specific, like in my thing. And what I realize is it's because I'm not farting around them. like and that's it. That's all it is. It's just I'm not like and I realized that I'm like, okay, well, that's just a sign of, like, we're, like, you know, we're not there in our relationship yet. We fart around each other. And B, I can make that feel better by going to the bathroom and farting if I have to, or finding us, like, going outside, or what, like, but it's just like, and it's sort of compounded too, because when you have a bunch of gas in your belly, like, you don't feel like socializing as much. So, but like that's something I really like, is like I think it's easy to recognize the connection between your mental state and your physical state, but not recognize that those links are directly related to your behavior and how you're acting, your habits, and you have control over, you know, you have some level of control over all three pieces of that: body, behavior, and emotions. But in my opinion, the easiest one to control is behavior. So yeah.
Well, you wouldn't control your behavior if your mindset wasn't on board. I mean, mindset is such a huge, powerful thing. So there's, and it's what's hard for some is different. Like, it's all different on how it plays out, but like where your mind goes, energy flows, kind of a thing, right? And if you're not willing to change your mindset to change the behavior, then that's going to get tricky. But if you are paying attention and have that awareness, and your perspective is, oh, I have a choice in this, I get to be aware and then choose a different behavior to release this pain that I'm causing, or that is that is happening in my body because of a situation. There's a lot of different choices you can make to remove that, right? Whether you remove yourself from the situation, or whether you choose a different perspective, or whether you sit in a different manner, but even when we're on the podcast, like, when I'm speaking, if I'm like slumped over and like, like, you can hear that in my voice, versus if I'm like, ooh, I'm so excited about what you just said, like, let's dig into that. I talk a little faster, which I should work on. I'm not going to shit on myself. We just talked about that all weekend. But I do talk quickly. But if I'm teaching meditation, I sure as heck don't. It's like knowing where I am in situational awareness and what is my purpose. How am I showing up right now? But you can hear it, like, even when you answer a telephone. Like, I'm trying to remember. There was a job I had where I was on the phone a lot, and I answered the phone. They're like, you can hear you smile. And it was like, yeah, and if I'm not smiling, it ain't pretty, even on the phone, right? Like, it's palpable. And maybe that's because I'm connected to my energy and my state and my being, and maybe it's just because that's how it works. And that's just it. Like, our body tells us if we're in a open flow state or if we're in like a something's not quite right, I'm feeling uncomfortable state. And when I say something's not quite right, I don't mean something's wrong with you. I just mean like something doesn't feel comfortable in our body. That's what I mean by that. So, but having the awareness, I love that you're playing with that a little bit and exploring it. And
yeah, I'm gonna be a little persnickety here. Okay. Not because I don't like believe or understand you, but because I want to make a point. You say your body tells you, and I just want to share for like if any of our listeners haven't felt like their body has been telling them, neither have I. To me, it's not so much of your body is telling you, more so your body exists in a way that is responsive to your emotional state, and you have to pay attention to that.
Oh, 100%.
It is definitely an active thing.
Oh, absolutely. When I say your body tells you, I do not mean that it's just going to like bark at you until you listen. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, sometimes that's true. You have to put intention. Mm-hmm. You don't have to put intention. It will. I mean, there are times where your body tells you, and it tells you loud enough that you don't have a choice but to pay attention.
Yeah, right? but even then, like for me, like there have definitely been times where I've felt really bad physically and didn't make any connection between that
don't connect the dots.
State.
Right. Clear.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. Yes.
So I know you understand all that, and that's what you meant. But I just want to drive that home.
That's great. I'm glad you do that, because sometimes I'm used to talking a certain group of people who have a certain understanding of like how they're showing up in the world, and I just got done with the weekend where we went deep, so I'm not at that beginner level in the now. Mm-hmm. I'm sort of in that deeper dive already in that state, just because that's where I just left from. So it's so good to listen. Mm-hmm. It's and the more clues we can get, right, like from ourselves, from our surroundings. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's cool.
Yeah, and I just to sort of reiterate, like, I really do like this technique a lot, especially as someone who is not very good at being aware of my own emotional state, of how I actually feel. Mm-hmm. I like you mentioned at the beginning, you talked about people who are very logical with their emotions and sort of filter their emotional state through a logical or how they should feel perspective. Yeah. And that has definitely been me, like pretty much my whole life, I think. So this has been super helpful for me too. So if any listeners are that way as well, definitely give this a try.
Yeah, and when you're used to that logical state, just to add just a little, almost like another thing to be mindful of or to sort of look out for, like when you're used to thinking about it logically and then you actually drop it into your body and pay attention to that, sometimes that's really uncomfortable. Like you kind of don't know what to do with it, or it feels a little bit like, oh, I'm unsure. And the more you can stay in that observer state and the learning state, versus like the... I don't know, perfectionist is the word that's coming in, right? Mm-hmm. Like that state of like, you have to know. It's like, what if you just get to explore it? Because I feel like when we're in that, because like I can be really logical too, and I used to be very, very logical. I feel like when we have the tendency to be logical, then when we move into something outside of that, right? Going into our body and actually feeling things in a different way that in some ways is taking our mind out of it, or at least as loudly as it used to be, then there can be this discomfort within that of like, oh wow, I felt it less when it was in my mind, or I felt it more comfortably when it was in my mind, and now I'm feeling it in my body and I'm not really sure how to navigate that. Does that make sense? I don't know if that's been your experience or not, but sometimes that is a thing for people.
Yeah, I think that would be like the next level of this sort of awareness would be like what we talked about so much, like just being aware mm-hmm. of it is level 1. Yeah. And what you're talking about, it seems like level 2 of being aware and being non-judgmental and like non-perfectionist about it.
And feeling it in a new and different way.
If you are where I might be, or it certainly was, I would say I would focus on level 1 first.
Oh, for sure.
And then once you feel like that, for me has been like that alone has been immensely helpful. And then you can go on to level 2.
Yeah. Sometimes level 2 just surprises you, and that's why I mentioned it. Like, sometimes it'll just come up and you'll be like, wait, this is super uncomfortable and I don't know what to do with it. And if that's the case, it's like, just, you can discern what you need in any given moment, and don't be afraid to take that. It's not like you have to stay there. Yeah. That's cool. I love that you're seeing it. Not only are you feeling it in your body, but you're noticing, like, within situations. And then you have really pinpointed where in your body you're feeling it, which I think is fantastic and amazing.
Yeah. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know how, like, 1 for 1 it is, like, every single time that my sternum is tight, if it means that I'm, like, have long-term stress going on or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's definitely enough that when I feel that way, I check in and, like, see and, like, like, give myself, like, a once-over.
Yeah, it's kind of like a little map. Just another layer, right? Another key to add to your map of just how you navigate emotions in a new way, or situations in a new way, or just how you show up in a new way. It's cool. Was that helpful?
Yeah.
I loved hearing you say how you're feeling it and noticing it more. That's cool.
I'll try to pay more attention to my breath moving forward.
Yeah, just see if it helps. I mean, it may or it may not, but I would be curious to know. Maybe we can follow up in a future podcast. However, I'm not wishing stress upon you so you can try it out. That is not something I'm doing.
Well, you can be aware of peaceful breath as well.
Yes, that's fair. I just meant because we were talking about being attached to your long-term stress and your sternum. But yes, being aware of peaceful breath is... breath with intention is one of the most powerful tools that I've found for me. I know that it's not for everyone, but for me it has been one that surprised me how much it helps me. What do you think? Is that a wrap for today?
Yes.
Let us know if you have any questions about today's episode. I feel like it was a fun little chat that might actually invoke and invite some questions. So if you have them, don't hesitate to either send us a message or post on our social media, Hypothetically Intentional, both Instagram and Facebook. And we are glad you are here. Thanks for listening. Bye. Be you every day.
Bye.